Hey everyone, welcome into this week's TDR's weekly recap of the biggest developments in cannabis presented by Dutchie. I am your host, Shad Dales, and this week, things keep heating up around cannabis rescheduling. We've also got major news out of Texas on hemp, a landmark ruling linking cannabis reform and gun rights, and a federal surge in DC that's raising eyebrows, plus updates on psychedelics, state markets, and corporate earnings. So lots to get into, as this is TDR's biggest developments for the week of August 18th. And a quick reminder that today's podcast is presented by Dutchie. Dutchie is the leading platform powering cannabis commerce. From point-of-sale systems to e-commerce and payments, Dutchie helps dispensaries streamline operations, stay compliant, and serve customers better. So whether you're a consumer or an operator, Dutchie is building the future of safe and accessible cannabis. If you want to check them out, visit business.dutchie.com. All right, let's get into it now. The uneasy marriage between cannabis reform and gun rights just hit another twist. A federal appeals court in Atlanta sided with medical marijuana patients, ruling that the government can't automatically strip them of their Second Amendment rights just because they use state legal cannabis. The 11th Circuit decision centered on plaintiffs including Vera Cooper, Nicole Hansel, and Neil Franklin, a retired police officer, all denied firearms because they participate in Florida's medical cannabis program. Under federal law, Section 922, unlawful drug users can't own guns. But here's the rub. Cannabis remains federally illegal, even though these plaintiffs were compliant state patients, not criminals. The judges said that lumping them in with felons and the mentally ill doesn't hold up. Other courts across the country are split. Some want juries to decide case by case, while others say blanket bans are unconstitutional. The Justice Department has asked the Supreme Court to now step in. So what are the stakes? They're enormous. Nearly 40 states have medical cannabis programs with millions of registered patients. The NRA has even acknowledged the confusing regulatory landscape. Bottom line, until the Supreme Court weighs in, patients are in limbo, caught between doctors' orders and their constitutional rights. So a lot to develop here. Now let's focus on the federal surge in DC, where President Trump's federal surge aimed at violent crime. It's making headlines for all the wrong reasons. A viral clip highlighted by John Oliver showed a federal agent warning DC residents, quote, "Don't be smoking outside, don't be drinking outside because Donald Trump is tired of it," end quote. The problem? Cannabis possession is legal in DC since 2014. Public use is banned, but smoking on your own porch is generally considered fine. The surge has produced 465 arrests in just 2 weeks, but local leaders say violent crime isn't the issue here. Federal agents are cracking down on the porch tokes instead. Layer this over Trump's promise to announce a decision on cannabis rescheduling soon, and the mixed messages are glaring to say the least. On one hand, considering Schedule 3. On the other, federal crackdowns on residents smoking legally at home. How does that make any sense? So until Congress lets DC build a regulated market, the city stays stuck in limbo. Legal to possess, illegal to sell, and risky if you smoke outside. Don't understand that one. Let's now switch gears to psychedelics. After years of back and forth, the DEA has finally asked federal health officials to review the science on psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms. This follows a legal fight led by Dr. Sunil Agarwal in Washington State, who's been trying since 2020 to secure psilocybin access for palliative care patients. The DEA has now kicked it to the HHS, meaning the FDA will weigh in with a scientific review, the first step towards possible rescheduling. Advocates are aiming for Schedule 2, which would open the door for medical use and right to try access. And the political matters here too. HHS is led by RFK, who has voiced support for psychedelic therapies, with allies at FDA and VA also opening the door to reform. This really is for patients with terminal illness or PTSD, so every inch closer to access matters here. Now let's turn to Massachusetts, where a rollback could be in play. What do I mean by that? Well, there's 2 ballot measures branded an act to restore a sensible marijuana policy aimed to repeal recreational legalization altogether. So if passed, adult use markets would shut down. THC caps would be imposed on medical cannabis, and edibles would be capped at just 5 milligrams per serving. Proponents face a tough climb, 74,000 signatures, legislative review, and voter approval in a state where 65% still support legalization. Add in scandals at the Cannabis Control Commission, and reformers smell opportunity. But realistically, voters torching their own legal market is a long shot, so don't read too much into this. Let's now focus at the federal level, where cannabis companies got a break, the Supreme Court approved a 2-month extension for plaintiffs pushing to overturn federal prohibition. Cannabis Visions, Gyazi Sellers, Wiseacre Farm, and Verano Holdings, they're represented by Powerhouse Boyce, Schiller, Flexner, LLP, now have until October 24th to file their case. They're challenging the 2005 Reich decision, which upheld federal court even over intrastate cannabis, with Justice Clarence Thomas previously blasting federal cannabis policy as a half-in, half-out regime. There's real intrigue about how this case might unfold. If the Supreme Court of the United States takes it up, Prohibition's legal foundation could shake to its core. So pay attention to this one heading into the fall. Let's now move to the Midwest in Ohio, where we're now 1 year into adult use sales. What's been reported in the Buckeye State? Well, $702 million in recreational sales since last August, with 100,000 pounds of flower sold. But challenges do remain. Medical sales are slipping, and unregulated Delta-8 products at gas stations and vape shops are confusing consumers and undercutting licensed stores. Lawmakers are still wrestling with how to rein in Delta-8 without disrupting this legal market. So all in all, Ohio's on a solid growth path, but the regulatory kinks are still working themselves out as we look now 1 year full into adult use being sold there. Let's turn now to the business side, and first up is Rubicon Organics. They trade on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ROMJ and on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol ROMJF. They report their latest earnings Q2 2025 this past Monday. Some of the notable numbers included $15 million in net revenue, up 24% year over year. That's their best quarter ever. $1.4 million adjusted EBITDA and positive operating cash flow. Market share leaders in premium categories, 26% in edibles, 15% in resin vapes, and number 1 in Canadian topicals. They also reported expanding their capacity with the Hope facility, adding 4,500 kilograms, though revenue impact won't hit until 2026. But in the meantime, brands like Simply Bare and 1964 Supply are driving consumer loyalty. Taking a step back, they've now reported 9 out of 10 quarters with positive adjusted EBITDA, so Rubicon is proving that premium and profitable can coexist. Well done by Margaret Brody and team. Next up is High Tide, and what a week it was, as their share price was up 38% at one point this week, and they also provided guidance this week as well. In that, they guided to record Q3 revenue of 147 to 150 million Canadian dollars, above analysts' expectations. EBITDA guidance also beat consensus at up to 10.6 million Canadian dollars. Same-store sales grew 7.4%. That's the fastest pace in 2 years. And now with its German acquisition, High Tide is setting itself up as a global retail player. Investors should circle September 15th is when their next results drop. So pay attention to High Tide next month. Next company we want to focus on is the Cannabis Company Holdings, and they're selling off 3 Pennsylvania dispensaries for $10 million in cash while securing a wholesale supply agreement to keep shelves stocked. This is part of a broader cleanup act, streamlining operations and focusing on cultivation and wholesale ahead of possible adult use legalization in PA. Next up is Decibel Cannabis, who reported Q2 net revenue of $29.8 million, up 35% year over year. International sales also surged 176% quarter over quarter thanks to Agmedica integration. EBITDA jumped 60% to $6.3 million. Free cash flow hit $2.2 million. So it was a strong quarter, and a clear global growth story is emerging here with Decibel. So again, well done by them. Let's now move to Tilray, where they got groovy this week as they made waves through its Breckenridge Distillery brand with the new whiskey mushroom hybrid called Mountain Shot. A 69 proof with chocolate, mint, and maitake mushrooms, it's pitched as an Après-Ski adventure drink. It's quirky, but it's part of Tilray's broader push to diversify revenue streams beyond cannabis. Always got to think outside of the box, which Irvin is proving to do time and time again. Also making news this week was a Traded Black podcast we had earlier, and I sat down with John Kuber, CEO of Nevis Brands, to talk hemp-derived THC beverages. Our key takeaway from that conversation was 5 milligram per serving is becoming the beer standard, but patchwork state rules and liability concerns are slowing adoption. The bottom line, beverages are gaining momentum, but need stronger standards and federal clarity before they can actually crack into the mainstream. If you want to learn more, check out our Traded Black playlist earlier this week, where my sit-down one-on-one interview with John Kuber, CEO of Nevis Brands, which trades on the CSE under the ticker symbol NEVI. I also want to highlight too about High Tide. Yes, they provided guidance this week and had a heck of a week of their share price, but they also added 2 new Canna Cabana stores in Saskatchewan and Ontario, bringing their total footprint now to 205 Canadian stores. This is classic High Tide strategy: open in underserved but growing markets, secure prime locations, and leverage the discount model to win loyal customers. They know their real estate model here. Let's now move out west to Leaf Brands, trades on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol LEEEF. They grew revenue 10% to $8.7 million, with unit sales up 19%. Margins, however, dipped due to biomass costs, but their massive California farm is about to come online to fix all that. Their losses narrowed, and they secured a New York license to expand into concentrates. They even dabbled in a little bit of Bitcoin holdings as well. So this is very much a plant now, profit later type story. So there you have it for this week. From gun rights battles and Trump's mixed cannabis messaging to Supreme Court extensions, Ohio's first year, and a wave of earnings report. This week again was nothing short of optimism and excitement that's building within this space right now as we hopefully inch closer to a decision being announced by President Trump regarding the rescheduling of cannabis. It's now been almost 2 weeks since he was asked that question in that presser about what he thinks about rescheduling, and saying that he'll have a decision in the next few weeks. So here we go. Congress in their summer recess is just around the corner, ending on September 1st. So all things are about to pick up come next week as September rolls in. Summer is just about over, but the consolation is things look like they're about to heat up in the cannabis space. And this is what we've been waiting for. In the meantime, let us know your comments below and what you anticipate this fall in the cannabis industry. You think this is going to be a banger back half? Let us know by leaving your comments below. As well, if you like this breakdown, make sure to give it a like, share it with your network, and if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate it here at the TDR Trade to Black podcast. One last thing as well, make sure to scan this QR code and become a daily baked-in newsletter subscriber as we provide you with all the latest information weekdays, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, delivered to your inbox, giving you latest information on the cannabis side of business and reform. There's a lot to cover off right now, so make sure you stay connected. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and like I always say, stay open-minded, stay connected, and I'll see you next week on our latest TDR's Trade to Black podcast. Take care, everybody. So long.